where you thought work wasn't going to come in, and we would have to stand up and tell everybody that they didn't have jobs anymore. I get a little choked up about that, because that's the hard part about running a company. I cry easily. I really do. I'm very emotional. It's like right under there. But the first
like Oprah touch.
It's like, seriously, the first time, if anybody in here is, you're unlikely because you're all young, but if you've run a company before, you start a company and you think it's about you, and you think it's there to do what you want to do, and you quickly learn, as you hire people, that it's about them. See, there we go. So, the minute you get up there and you think, oh, I got 30 people that have families, and I'm going to have to fire them, that's serious shit, you know? So, that was tough. Having to face that and not let everybody see that you're scared.
But you,
Bill makes me cry.
Yeah, right.
He's looking at it. He's so sensitive.
You gotta be to be an artist. You have to.
I
worry about people who don't get emotional. I mean, I think we all do. You know, if you don't get choked up at certain movies and everything. I mean, I think it's too sterile.
Oh, yeah, I can do it. It's a joke in Blur where I cry at staff meetings, like with regularity. I'll cry at staff meetings. I'll just go, I'm so happy to be here. You guys are great. And it's great.
I cry when I get my paycheck here.
Joy? Is it joy or is it?
So but you kind of quickly moved, by the nature of who you are in the company, you move into directing, right? You move into directing. You're doing small things like, you know, and everything. But move very quickly into commercials, and I think it's just pretty clear. I really liked your comment about working with advertising people, because I did 100 commercials in our nation. I can completely relate to what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I mean, advertising people are... I was a paint box guy for the first year I came out here, which means a compositing guy. You sit in a bay and you do a commercial and you're compositing whatever you happen to be doing. And usually the advertising people come and sit with you, and they would come, like 5 guys would come and sit behind you while you're creating art. And you could do something, and the first guy would go, holy shit, that's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing. And then the second guy would go, yeah, it's really great, but, you know... and then the third guy would go, yeah, there's something we're not thinking through here. And the fourth guy would go, yeah, we got to completely redo it. And you would just watch this process happen, and I would go, fuck you, you're a copywriter. Fuck you. Why are you even in here? You know, I went to art school for 5 years. I know what I'm doing. But they are the boss, and they're paying the money, so they think that red works, and it clearly doesn't.
You ever seen that Truth in Advertising video? That little
Yeah.
Thing? Yeah, that's pretty true.
That's great.
Yeah.
There was many times where I just had to say, I just can't agree with what you're doing, and you're so far off my creative radar that you just have to puppet me through this, because I think what you're doing is so stupid. They love that when I say things like that. But it's just you can't say it's good when it's not. You can't. If people ask you your opinion, you have to be honest. Which is not an excuse to be mean, but you have to be honest. And so I felt that was true even with my employers, which was why I was a terrible employee. And I think it's true with our people at Blur. I feel like everybody can tell me, for the most part, what they're thinking.
Why'd you name it Blur?
We sat down and wrote names on a napkin, and if anybody disagreed with any name, it came off the list. And what we ended up with was Spiral Blur. I'm not making this up. And then after we came up with a name, we voted on who would be president and vice president, whatever, and I was voted president. And we went down to register the name, and I just happened to call my wife, and I said, so the name of the company is going to be Spiral Blur. And she said, that's fucking stupid. You can't name your company that. And so and believe me, Blur was supposed to be this socialist, paradise where everybody had an equal say and an equal vote. And the first thing we did was, I said, I'm overruling all of you guys. It's gonna be Blur because my wife told me. It's gonna be Blur. And that's what we ended up with.
Peace in the family.
Yeah.
You guys have become so well known for your game cinematics. How did that come about? How'd you get your first one? And was it a lucky thing? Was it something you were working toward or planning? Or?
It was a very lucky thing. We had gotten a call by this guy named Trey Watkins, who was a game designer for a game called Dark Rain, and another company. He had wanted cinematics for the game, which used to be a bigger deal than it is now. They would have cutscenes in between that explained the levels, and he wanted some, and he hired this company called Mondo Media to do it, and they had fucked it up. And then he came to me and said, I got a little bit of money left, would you do it? And I said, sure. And then we did those, which then led to Wolfenstein, which then led to Dark Rain 2, and then we somehow became known for it. But I like them because they're like little mini movies, and it's been a good business for us. You know, people come to us now and just say, hey, I got $1 million, make something cool for a Batman game.
And it's really unusual to have that creative freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice in the industry. People trust us, and we've been around for a while. And we're easy to work with as a company. We're not, again, I think the fact that it's run by artists and it's not a business, then they know that the creative's going to come first. We didn't have any salespeople until literally last year. No salespeople. It was all the work that comes into Blur was really either just word of mouth or me calling somebody and going, hey man, I saw that Lego thing is coming out. Can we help? Because that's fucking cool. And then people would let us, because it was coming from a place of enthusiasm and creative desire versus, hey, you have some money and I need it, sort of thing.
Well, I know you sent along the Blur reel. Should we take a look at that?
Yeah, yeah.
So we took it something. Maybe we can have the lights.
Woo.
That's one of my favorite reels ever. I like that music. It's very aspirational and character-centric.
You know, you guys have sort of become, you like I think the trademark is fantasy imagery portraying a visceral reality. And I think from the beginning, I think you were attracted to sort of more real-life cinematography than quote animation staging and animation acting, right?
Well, yeah, subject matter. I mean, I was an animator and I love animation, but I like sci-fi, so I ended up with the mocap centric projects. So it's been a pretty long time since I directed keyframe stuff, just because I like the subject matter that kind of comes with more realistic animation. Even though I love keyframe, we got a lot of stuff. We brought some stuff from Reactor. It was a big keyframe project we just did. And I haven't told Bill about this, but we sold this project to Netflix. That's going to be hopefully out in a year or so. I'm so fucking excited about it.
This is the Fincher thing. You did say something about it.
Well, no, this is a different one. This is a different one. This is an edgy adult animated anthology series, much like heavy metal was for my generation. And it's going to be sci-fi, horror, fantasy, fantastic stories. It's going to be cell animation, stop motion, cell animation, and CG, lots of CG.
It's hand-drawn.
It's going to be a mix of all styles. And it's just going to be, and Blur will do some of it, and then we'll do some of it with studios around the world, like that are usually our competitors, like Digic and Platige in Poland and Axis in Scotland. And it's going to be this big creative community thing, and it's just going to be great, so good. But I think it's going to be the greatest animation opportunity because it's all adult. It's not just for kids, like we haven't really been able to do here in the States, and I'm pretty excited about it. But doing all that stuff, like that kind of adult animation, is you basically, I went into Netflix and with Fincher and said, I want to do this. I want to tell stories like this. And they said, all right. Wasn't quite that easy.
You have another series that you've got coming up as well.
Yeah, well, The other one we were talking about was a live action series, but it'll have a ton of visual effects, like Game of Thrones. Yeah, but not Game of Thrones.
You were mentioning about the purity of keyframe animation, and some people have been reluctant to embrace mocap, but you embraced mocap very quickly and never felt like it was like a compromise in any way. You actually thought it was a great way, like I think you said, to see things, to get things up on screen and not compromise, right?
Yeah, well, remember back to the two types of artists. There's the ones who like to do it and the ones who like the result. Mocap is all result, baby. I mean, it's just like you go in and if you're trying to do realistic human animation, then trying to keyframe it, I feel is just, it may be an interesting learning experience, but it's not a valid production tool. You just go to direct actors to do it. And then you have animate. There's still a lot of opportunities in animator to enhance it, especially if you're doing superheroic stuff or creature stuff, or you use mocap as a base and then you work on top of it. Which again, I didn't mind it because again the process was not important to me. It was the result.
Wasn't your facial still mostly keyframe though?
It's a mix. I mean, we started using facial motion capture techniques like MOVA, but yeah, it's, you know, it's still kind of fucked up. There's still no real way to get it right. It's still hard. We're still in the uncanny valley. We're not quite out of it yet.
You know, when I read you were involved in Deadpool, I mean, the two things about you that struck me as being the perfect guy was your comic book sensibility, your sci-fi sensibility. You're really from that world. You're not like a director who's going in there to learn about it. You literally, that was you from the...
I'm a super nerd. Yeah.
Super nerd, yeah. And the other thing was just the experience of knowing how it gets done. I had a feeling that I always felt when you spent a lot of publicity about the lower budget and how it looks so great, and I always thought that came a lot from the fact that you really understand how to make those effects, how to make a movie like that from the very beginning. It gave you like kind of a leg up, right?
Yeah, that certainly helps, but I mean, ultimately, I don't know that makes the movie successful or not. It just, I think all of that stuff, they would bring people in to help directors who don't know that, so it was helpful that I did know that, but honestly, the movie making process is, it's script, and then it's execution, and then it's holding the line against people that want to take the chicken shit route and not do anything edgy because they're afraid of it, which happens all the time. So, I mean, it was certainly helpful to have that base of knowledge where I felt comfortable in, especially because the rest of the filmmaking process was very uncomfortable for me, since I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And it's hard to be on set every day with a bunch of people, and you know that they know that you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And so it really is uncomfortable because you're supposed to be in charge, and yet there's this, you know, giant elephant that they know you don't know what you're doing. So.
Well, I think everybody was pretty surprised when you were talking to us earlier about the fact that that's exactly what happened. A guy who's directed a lot of mocap, you've had your own studio, a person with that kind of background, certainly you would have thought would have kind of been ready and in a position to kind of bullshit their way with the crew a little bit more than you did. I mean, your approach, I think everybody who heard it was pretty shocked at what you said the first day on the set to everybody and how you approached the movie.
Well, I feel like people, they know it. So if you don't say it, they're just going to say it behind your back. So I felt like it's much better to get it out there. And so if somebody sees me doing something stupid, instead of them going, you know, the grip's going, oh my God, did you hear what that fucking guy said? What an idiot. They could just go, Tim, you know what? What you just said there was wrong. So let me tell you how to do it right. That's a much better situation for the movie and for me in general. And I don't feel like you lose respect. I mean, I've never lost respect for anybody that says, I don't know. Tell me. But I've lost a lot of respect for a lot of people who come in and pretend that they know something when they clearly don't. I mean, those are the people that you don't. Those people are poison in a production pipeline. I mean, how many times have you been fucked by animators that you hired that said, oh yeah, I can do that, I'm the greatest keyframer ever living, and then they come in and they suck. I would much rather hire them and say, hey, I'm a junior person in this, and but I want to learn. I like that person. I don't like the person who makes these grand claims that they can't back up.
So on the first day of shooting, he announced to the entire crew he'd never directed a live-action movie, and he really didn't know what he was doing. He invited everyone on the crew to educate him during the production, which was really something.
And they did. Constantly. Yeah. But in a very respectful way. I mean, the position of director puts this artificial bubble around people that I think is both good and bad. I mean, it's good in that even me saying that didn't make people go, okay, well then we're just going to take over because he's an idiot. But it also, in a bad way, it makes people afraid to speak up. It makes people afraid to put forth ideas that could actually help the movie because, the directors may not want to hear it or may not be open to other suggestions. And it's just, we never run Blur that way, I sit out on the floor. I don't have an office. My desk is on the floor with all the other animators, and people can come up and say, hey, the company sucks, anytime they want.
No masseur.
No massages, yeah. Yes, they can come up and say, Tim, we should have a massage.
So as a first-time director who hasn't directed live action, how do you go about choosing your key personnel, like your cinematographer and your production designer and your editor? If you haven't done a live action movie, how do you begin to find those people and identify the people that are right for you?
Well, the other nice thing about the movie making process is, again, you're with all these people that know what they're doing. So when I hire a producer, which was the first thing we hired, John Kelly, he was great. John is like, let's look at cinematographers, let me put the word out, and we get a bunch of reels. And obviously, as a visual artist, you can look at that sort of thing and say, yeah, this guy's good, I like this movie, I like this movie. And then John goes and gets references for all these people, and you talk to people that they've worked with, and you find out how they were to work with. And so, and then for the positions that you don't know, like first AD, I didn't even know what a first AD was, but it's a pretty fucking important person on your set. And so you ask a lot of people, and then you meet the person and hope that your gut is right. And that, I think, being older and having a little more experience at life, I guess, you get a sense of people, and that helps a lot. You can spot the fakers, you can spot the kiss asses. For producer, that was the first thing. Like, I had 4 producers come in. 3 of them were kissing my ass from the minute they walked in the door because they wanted the job. Look, I'm just here to make your movie. I just want to do what makes you happy, man. My producer, John Kelly, the guy I hired, and he's like, yeah, I like making movies, so tell me about why I should make your movie with you. And I like that because he wasn't trying to impress me, and he didn't need the job, and I could tell he would be honest with me. And if you don't have people around you that are honest, then you're in danger.
How grueling was it to shoot this thing? I mean, was it tough? It's a pretty tough thing, right? 7 days a week, long hours. Everybody's looking at you for decisions all the time.
I thought animation was the hardest job, but directing just doesn't compare. Just overwhelming life decisions. One time, I'm friends with David Fincher, and I'm not name dropping, but David was making fun of me when I said I complained about something. He's like, you fucking animators, you guys, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to walk on set and have 300 people waiting for you to tell them what to do, and if you fuck it up, it's $1 million a day, and you got it so easy. But he's right. I didn't have 300 people on set, but 100 people, and it literally is, you wake up, you have 1,000 questions until 11 o'clock at night, when I would have a glass of wine and half a sleeping pill to go to sleep because my brain's just churning, and then you wake up and you're right in it the next day. And I think I did 30 days straight on because I started shooting my own second unit. And I was pretty tired. But if you get, I think the rookie mistake, and somebody told me this, but I learned this in life too, is when you're younger, you have this idea that you're Superman, so I'm just going to stay up all night. I'm going to get 2 hours of sleep. I can do that. But that doesn't work for very long. So I always maintained 6 hours of sleep every night. I could function on that for a long time without breaking down, even at my advanced age.
Why'd you shoot your own second unit?
I just wasn't crazy about what I was getting. And then there were some sequences, like if you guys saw the movie, there's a big fight in this burning building. And I was supposed to shoot one side of it. Usually the director, the difference between main unit and second unit is usually the main unit director is with the big name actors. The second unit director does stunts and things like that. So I was shooting a day in that environment with Ryan, and then when we turn around and shoot Ed Skrine's part, that was going to be the second unit guy, because Ed's not a big movie star. But I shot my day, and I just couldn't imagine having another director come in and do that scene, because I love that scene, and so I just said, I'm going to take it. And I just started doing that a lot. Oh, this is really important. So, I'm just, instead of taking Saturday off, I'm just going to go and do it.
So did your second unit guy feel bad about that?
Maybe. Which I felt bad for maybe a day about, and then I said, fuck it. It's my movie. So I'm gonna do it myself. I got a different second unit director this time, who's a friend of mine, and we worked together for a long time, so I think it'll be a little easier to hand off.
I assume you boarded, or usually board most of your cinematic stuff and everything, and did you board the exact same amount on the live action picture? Did you do it differently? Did you depend a lot on your boarding?
Well, for the big action scenes, yeah, we previs, so we didn't do just boards, we did full 3D previs, and we followed it to the T. So when you're shooting a bar scene, you don't do it. You just block it and wing it. But for the visual effects stuff, we previs the fuck out of it. And for Deadpool 2, we just finished basically 3 weeks of mocap with the stunt team doing the basics for the previs for Deadpool 2. Some big sequences.
So in a way, that's kind of a comfort area for you, because making those previous sequences, isn't that dissimilar from making the cinematics you've made for years, right?
No, and then you just treat the actors like digital puppets. And say, look, see what we did here with our CG version of Deadpool. Now, Ryan, you do exactly that. No, they hate that. But it is a guideline, and you can see it work. So it becomes a very religiously followed tool on the set, because once you get off the program with the visual effects shops, it can get really expensive or can fuck up the flow. It's not the time where you just want to wing it,
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that part of your job is keeping the people who want to ruin it from ruining it. And I think the story, of course, was that you and Ryan really had to fight for years to keep the vision of this particular idea the way it was, that they'd want to make it different ways, and they would offer you to make it certain ways, and you didn't want to do it, didn't you? There was a PG version you were offered at one point.
PG-13, yeah. We did a PG-13 version of the script. The most gratifying thing for me was when Fox wouldn't make it the first time, there was like 5 lines where the chairman of Fox said, these lines cannot be in the movie, they're not funny, they're not appropriate. And one of those lines was the tag on the trailer of the movie that we made, and it got the biggest laugh. And I couldn't believe, I fought and argued for it. It's where he sniffs the smoke and says, "I'm touching myself tonight." And I was always one of my favorite jokes in the movie. And then they came and they said, "Oh, you can't do this. this is not funny, it's not good, and nobody will get it. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's great. And then to do that and have that person be running another studio now, and it was just so satisfying to me. Although, you know, I say that, but it's not like I was angry about it or anything. All of those things in hindsight look like easy decisions, but if you're a person who's responsible for not taking big risks with studio money, then, you know, I don't look at Deadpool and go, oh yeah, absolutely, they're idiots not to make this movie. I always thought it was a risky thing, so I don't blame people for not taking risks. You can just make another romantic comedy and make for $30 million and make 200. It's a safer bet.
I mean, people now look at it and they see this Ryan Reynolds performance and the style of the movie that's so distinctive. Were you always in lockstep with Ryan about the character and about the portrayal and everything? Did you guys have to work that through, or were you always pretty much in sync from the start?
We were pretty much in sync from the start. I think the difference was like really on day 2, maybe we shot this scene. We shot the scenes in the apartment with Blind Al. If you guys have seen the film first, and as it had been written in the script for years, where she goes to answer the door and she trips and she falls, and then Deadpool opens the door and it hits her in the head and knocks her into the wall, and she's stunned, and then he steps on her and goes inside. And it was always like that, and I didn't really think about it, and it was there for 6 years, and then I see that on set and I go, that's ridiculous. This looked like a fucking Dick Van Dyke episode here. And it seemed really slapstick and not grounded and not realistic. And I said, we're not doing that. It's just, she's going to trip, and then he's going to open the door, and they're going to make a joke. And we made the adjustment. But then I looked at the script again with a different eye, and we had all this, there's a fair amount of slapstick in there. And I just kind of changed that all as we went. It wasn't, I don't want it to make it sound too drastic, but it just had a lot more goofy stuff in it. And I really wanted Deadpool to be the only weird, quirky element, and everybody else should behave, you know, fairly normally. I don't want to make a National Lampoon movie, you know. They're great. I just didn't want to make one. So anyway, that was a big kind of switch. The writers were not incredibly pleased with me, but you know.
I find it